Chapter 10 Gorian the Scribe. Philo's stomach woke him very early in the morning with the uncomfortable cramps that begin a day when something frightening is going to happen. He shot out of bed and made for the latrine, and when he came back later feeling empty and chilly, Hylas was awake. "What's the matter? Have you been sick?" he asked in a whisper, not to wake Conan. "Not exactly. I'm better now." It was still nearly an hour before he needed to get up. He slid into bed carefully beside his brother. Conan grunted and turned over to face the wall. Something in Philo's voice caught Hylas's attention. He sat up and looked at him, and even in the half-light he could see the boy's bruised cheek. "What's that?" Philo told him from the beginning. "And Fulvius is right. I hate it, working in the dining room, and I'm clumsy. But what am I going to do? I'm not very clever with my hands, and now we can't afford school anymore. How am I ever going to learn to earn my living?"
Said Hylas. I rather wondered how that was going to work out. A Roman mess isn't the best place for a boy of good family to work in. I remember only too well what it was like when I was your age. But let's be practical. There has to be something you're good at. You looked after me very well when I was hurt. That pleased Philo, but seemed to lead nowhere. "Wait a minute," said Hylas suddenly. "I've thought of something." "What?" "Who was the old Jew who came back to the gate not long ago? You went out to talk to him, the one with the gray side curls." "Old Gorian, Paulinus's clerk." "Is that his name? Why did he come?" "He always had a great respect for father, and he came to see how we were." "Why do you want to know?" "You were talking to him 19 to the dozen. What language was that?" "Aramaic, of course. He speaks Greek, but his Aramaic is more fun. Father taught me, and I was practicing. Hebrew is the formal Jewish language of their scriptures, but Aramaic is what they actually speak and write." "You sound pretty fluent." "What other languages do you speak besides Greek?" "Latin, of course, ugly language, and enough Syrian for shopping, and some of the dialect the Arabs use. It's very like Aramaic. Why?" "You pick up languages easily." "I suppose I do. Father used to joke about it and say how useful it would be on my first journey." Philo stopped suddenly, back on forbidden ground where he could not trust himself. That was the golden future that had rolled up suddenly in his face like a closed scroll. It only hurt to remember it. Hylas noticed but pretended not to. "Which of those languages can you write?" he asked. "Greek and Latin." "Not Aramaic?" "I know a few of the letters. Gorian started to teach me once." "I wonder if that could be the answer. Here across Jordan and in Judea, the army is going to need secretaries and clerks who can understand what Jewish prisoners are saying and read Aramaic documents. It's an awkward language, and the Romans aren't quick to understand strange alphabets. The main thing when you have to earn your living is to find a skill that someone else hasn't got and that they'll pay you for. What do you think?" That would mean being drawn even more closely into the war, the terrible war that had already divided Nicanor from his family. For a moment Philo felt that he could not bear it. That good as this idea was, he wanted to do more with the Romans. He wanted no more to do with the Romans, let alone to work even more closely with them. But what else was there? He pushed the doubts away and tried to look at Hylas's plan from the practical point of view. "Gorian would teach me properly. I know he would, but what would Fulvius think?" It was almost day now, and the house was beginning to stir. Philo sat up and saw that Hylas was smiling. "I think Fulvius would be rather relieved, and, do you know, I think Gorian might find himself with 2 pupils. I would like to learn Aramaic myself." "Why?" "I'll tell you later if it works out. I'm not sure I can explain all this to Fulvius." "It sounds as if I'd better. It would come more easily from me," said Conan. "How long have you been awake?" asked Philo in surprise, getting up and feeling for his sandals. "Not all that long." Conan sat up. "Hylas, do you think it would work?" Hylas said, It has a right feel about it. If Philo is prepared to work harder and quicker at something difficult than he ever has before, I think he may find that a bruised face has been worth it." It seemed almost at once that Hylas's feel had been right, for as soon as he reached his office that morning, Marius Galenus sent for Philo, and Conan followed him uninvited into the room. The tribune raised an eyebrow. "Counsel for the defense?" he asked. "Rather more a witness, sir, if you will allow me," said Conan, who had always found the young Roman easy to talk to. "Very well. Now, boy, let's have a look at you." He came round to the other side of his table and turned Philo's head toward the light with one strong hand. "You know you deserved that and rather more?" Philo nodded, suddenly very scared that Fulvius had been wrong about the flogging. "So what are we going to do with you?" "You haven't got use for a clerk with the knowledge of Aramaic, have you?" asked Conan. "Are you asking me for a job?" "Not for me, for Philo." "He writes Aramaic?" Not quite, but he speaks it well, and he could be writing in a couple of months. The Tribune was used to making up his mind fast. You've got 1 month to prove it. Meanwhile, half pay in your meals and any odd jobs Fulvius can find, but not in the dining room. Now clear out and let me get on. Fulvius saw them go, and then went into the Tribune's room. He found him well pleased with what had happened. I thought Philo would come up with something. He's an inventive sort of boy. I wonder about the older brother, though. Do you think he'd make a soldier? Galenus sat back in his chair. Conan? I hadn't thought about it. As an auxiliary, of course. He's about the age and reasonably well built. Finding a good Aramaic secretary would be worth an introduction to Agrippa's auxiliary commander. I don't see that there's anything else Conan can do. And he's a good enough lad. Things haven't been easy for him, being the eldest. He went through the doorway and up the steps to the store-yard. Pausing at the stable door, he looked across the small courtyard where Conan was talking to Lucia, seeing him for the first time in a different light. In uniform and a helmet, he would look like a man. The boyish good looks would be fading away soon. As soon as he had told Hylas what had happened, Philo went down to the market again. Now he was half looking out for Nicanor, although it was unlikely that he would be in the city 2 more days running. It was not easy to go down the same narrow alley at the rear of Paulinus's warehouse. He found Gorion where he had expected, checking the pannier loads of a train of donkeys. Philo curled himself around a corner to wait for a chance to speak to him. Gorion noticed him quickly and made a wait-and-see gesture. It was an hour before the last of the sacks were counted, and he folded his tablets with a snap and shuffled off towards a stall which was selling fresh bread rings. In a corner where 2 walls met, out of the wind, Philo was waiting for him. "You wanted me again, young master? How can I serve you?" His politeness hurt. Philo suddenly realized that he had not worked out with Hylas how he was going to pay for the lessons. "I don't know how to ask you," he said, suddenly shy of the old man he had known all his life, and started to stammer. The seamed face smiled. Gorion cracked the fresh seed-sprinkled bread ring he was holding and gave Philo half. "Eat and talk, son of my old friend. Boys are always hungry." Philo started to chew automatically, but suddenly he felt better. "Do you remember trying to teach me the Aramaic alphabet once?" "Indeed I do. You would have learned it quickly if you had persevered." "Could you teach me again?" "Surely. But, Gorion, I can't pay you for lessons, not at first, and this time there would be 2 of us." "Have I asked for money? But who is the other pupil? Not your brother." "Conan? Oh, no. It's—" How did one explain Hylas? I think I see. I should come to your house quietly, to the back gate, and we can talk in comfort and see if your mind is still quick. Tonight I'm not sure, but I may be free. You will be there?" "Yes, Gorion. Any night you come. If I can write Aramaic, perhaps I can find work. And with that will come respect again. For such a reason every night I will come. Now, I have my own job to keep." The old man turned and threaded his way between the market stalls. That afternoon Hylas rested from his copying work, saving his eyes for the evening, in the hope of their first lesson. Philo came into the room in the late afternoon to light the lamp and found Hylas lying back with his eyes shut but a faint smile on his mouth. "What are you thinking about? You look happy." "I was enjoying the feeling of having made a plan that seemed to be the right one. That and the thought of Aramaic itself." "Why do you want to learn it so much? You said you'd tell me." Hylas opened his eyes and sat up. "Because it is the language that my lord spoke to his friends. I want to have the sound of it in my mouth, to be able to read what he read." "Your lord? Your former master, do you mean?" Philo was completely lost. It did not sound at all like the murdered senator or anyone else he had heard about so far. Hylas laughed. "Not my master, my lord, the god I serve, the Christos." He used the Greek word. Then Philo understood, and with the knowledge came fear and concern and great affection. "When you told us that first time that you were a Christian, I don't think I really understood. But Hylas, the emperor, in Rome they've killed the followers of the Christos." "And not only in Rome, I have friends who have died in Bithynia and Syria. Have I frightened you, Philo? You know I would never bring danger on you here. I would leave at once, but I've been careful." "It isn't that, and you know we don't want you to go." "Nor do I yet. I think I have a little more time here. Listen, isn't that someone outside?" It was almost dark now in the yard, but from the doorway Philo saw the bent figure of Gorion talking to his brother by the light of the lamp at the back gate. He went out to welcome him and to bring him in. Gorion looked at the young man with the scarred face. "Yes, the stranger, the burnt man from the desert. I thought it would be you." They greeted each other courteously, and then Hylas said, "It's a long time since I was brought in. I hoped people had forgotten me." "Oh yes, almost. There have been so many dying and dead men since last summer. You're safe enough here, in the very house of the Roman commander, and your secret is safe from those who should not know it. But I hear some things my master doesn't, and I and my friends have not forgotten the man who saved the followers of the Way, who escaped from Jerusalem. How could we? It was very still in the small room, so that Philo found himself listening to his own breathing. Hylas suddenly seemed a long way away, though his eyes were still open, and Gorion was watching him with the eye of a fisherman who has cast his line in what he hopes is the right place. Even here? And all these months I haven't known, and I thought myself alone on this side of the river? I should have trusted more. So you understand what learning Aramaic would mean to me? You want to hear his voice in the words. Is it not a blessing in my own life? He took the young man's hands in his. Philo suddenly had a feeling that he was very much in the way in the small room, and Hylas, as usual, sensed his feeling almost before he knew it himself. Poor Philo. I think we shall have to leave the first lesson till tomorrow. Gorion and I have much to discuss, but perhaps he can leave us the alphabet to learn. As Philo went out of the room, he wondered if he was jealous of Gorion, but how could he feel like that about anyone who could bring such a light into Hylas's face? He knew him so much better now than he had when they had fought for his life for the first day after he was brought into the house. It stirred him deeply to understand that his friend was still in danger in a new and more difficult way. The sound of loud Roman laughter so close through the archway made him shiver as he went to say good night to Lucia and invent a soothing story of why the lessons had not begun.